The question today is, do we need to disconnect to reconnect? And if so, what do we need to disconnect from and what do we want to reconnect to?
Oh,
And
that's kind of profound, actually.
yeah,
Because I just assumed we all agree on what we're disconnecting from. But you're
Yeah.
right. What are we disconnecting from?
Yeah, exactly. There's like many possibilities when you start drilling into it. Yeah, yeah. It's something I've thought about a fair bit over the last few years. I actually, well, last weekend I was doing a Reiki course, which was fascinating, but it was really weird how you're learning this thing that there's like hands-on Reiki and hands-off Reiki. If you don't know what Reiki is, it's like an energy healing thing that doesn't make any sense on the surface. But that's, for me, that was like a great reason to go on a course. I was like,
of all the courses you've been on, I think this is one of the ones that is more sensical than you know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah,
Actually, maybe
absolutely.
not. Actually, it's on par, I'd say. But anyway.
Yeah, but it was fascinating, and there's like a whole kind of Chinese Japanese philosophy behind it. But the thing that really struck me when I was doing Reiki on somebody was like this sense of deep connection, and how like as a group, like we really bonded very, very quickly, and we're complete strangers. And I just had this really deep feeling inside me that this is such a beautiful thing. It's so wonderful. It feels so good as a human to experience this connection. And I was like, what the hell? Why do I feel like deprived of this? Like, why is this not something that I feel like I experience in an average day? Why do I have to go on a Reiki course to experience it with anybody other than my wife, for example? And it wasn't even like we were having like deep and meaningful conversations. It was just very, very basic, simple kind of, I don't know, just something about being very present with people. And yeah. So anyway, so that kind of got me thinking maybe this is an interesting thing to talk about. And I had previously talked about it on a podcast with called If I Ruled the World with Gillian Burke, she's a BBC Springwatch presenter, and she has her own podcast. And basically her podcast, If I Ruled the World, is kind of does what it says on the tin. On the one hand, she talks to you about stuff that you're interested in, but then the second half of it is always like, right, now you're like the ruler of the world. And she's got a series of questions she takes you through to basically find out like what you would do if you were this sort of benevolent dictator.
That's interesting because you can't just complain about what the current rulers are doing. You kind of got to come up with a solution.
It's like, you're in charge now. Yeah. Come on, what are you going to do about it?
How would you solve that problem?
Yeah, so it was really good fun. But I pitched to her what at the time I called my Disconnect to Reconnect manifesto, which was about like in schools, like getting kids doing meditation like at the beginning of the day to kind of have some time where they get in touch with themselves before they get thrown into classes, getting like outdoor time embedded into like school curriculums as well as like the NHS, so that like healing and education both are not just in these sterile rooms with tube lights. Legalizing psychedelics, which we've talked about before. And then there were like various tax reforms and things like that, which we don't need to get into. But and banning, well, because she specifically asked us, one of her questions was about tax. Yeah, I was like, oh, if we must. And but actually, it was really that's kind of fun. Yeah. And banning addictive technology, not just digital, but just if you're actively engineering something to be addictive, like we talked about Doritos recently, that just shouldn't be allowed. But it sort of sparked this thought process in me about, what do we like, what, particularly the digital world. You and I both work in the digital sector, and the kind of like connecting people, it all goes back to like Nokia, right? Back in the day, right? Nokia, connecting people. And I feel like that's sort of been one of the mantras of the whole, like, not just telecoms, like, but digital sector.
That is like if you're a Facebook employee, that is what you're sold.
Right.
what you're doing. That's the mission of your company, is to connect everybody around the world, and what a laudable goal. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all sounds very, very wonderful. And yet, like, mental health problems continue to get worse, and society seems to be gradually like fraying, unraveling at the seams. Like, hang on, I thought we were all supposed to be like more connected, and that should be a good thing. And also, just in terms of our connection with the planet, that we're living these lives that are very
Yeah.
disconnected. Um, so I sort of wondered whether is there like a, well, first of all, I'm coming from the assumption that connection in general is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Connection between living
Yeah.
beings, whether they're humans or animals or just like connecting with nature. Um, but is there like maybe there's a limit to how much connection we can actually process? And so if we're like, feel like we're connecting more over here, maybe we're connecting less over there. Or maybe that's not the case, but we're just being distracted to the point that we kind of just forget to connect to the things that matter.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's sort of what I wanted to dive into today, and explore this. Yeah, like, do we need to kind of pull back from some things to some extent in order to actually plug back into things that matter more that we've forgotten?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. I think there's so many different, because as you were speaking, there was so many, my mind went to so many different places. I was just your last thing you mentioned. I often had this. I was thinking like, what are we disconnecting from? And maybe we can phrase it even slightly differently. Like, what are we connecting to? I think that's maybe a better way of describing it. And maybe there's a lot of this, I think, is to do with the self. Like when I'm disconnected from people and things, and even you're driving, you're disconnected even from driving, because you just do it on autopilot. You're not really present. It's not really about being present in the moment. Um, you're yeah. It's about going, for me especially. It's about going into my head. I can spend all day in my head. I love it inside. That's brilliant inside there. Honestly, I love it. I love it. I can just sit. I'm honestly very comfortable being by myself and just thinking all day. It's like, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that. There's nothing better I enjoy than just sitting and thinking by myself. Um, so for me, like, that's a disconnection from me in a way. Like, I'm disconnecting from everything else, but it's got nothing to do. I'm not disconnected by dealing with WhatsApp messages or online or on social media. I'm disconnected myself in my own head, because it's nice being in there. But there's also, like, I was thinking, I have this way, I have this idea that I built up from a young age, a very young age. I don't know where it came from. I think I just, in my head, I invented it. This idea of focus. Like, what is focus to me? And I have a visual. I visualize it this way, like, all the time. So I imagine I have like threads coming from my head. Like, there's multiple threads. There's dozens of them coming from my head, and I can put those threads onto different things. So being present, like, if I'm like, if you and me were like here, and I'm right now, I'm giving you my full attention, like, all of my threads, most of them are on you. There's some. There are some are
There's a
just
few
around.
drifting, floating, and
There's a
flapping
few
around.
drifting, because you
Yeah.
need to, right? You need to.
Yeah.
You need to. Like, there might be shit about to happen around me, right? You never know, right? There's stuff to protect me, but I've got a bunch of threads are on you. When you're intimate with your partner, like, all those threads, right there. When you're when you're engaged in like focus mode and flow mode, it's all like, all your threads are there. When you're expressing that idea of being present in the moment, like, all your threads are like focused in on this thing. And then the other moments when you're not, like, it's just you've got a bunch of threads in a bunch of different areas. Like, for me, it's like I'm supposed to be playing with my children, but I'm also thinking about something that happened at work. A bunch of threads are different places, and so I think of that as like as this focus. And you mentioned you mentioned we're feeling frayed. So it's almost like, God, there's 3 threads on thinking about that Twitter post, and there's 4 threads thinking about what I read, or the CNN thing or something else I did, and there's 4 threads thinking about what happened to me at work, and we're afraid that there's all just all over the place, and then you just feel you'll get through life, but there's no moment. You haven't got any threads to think about reflection. You haven't got any threads to think about, how am I feeling today? Like, do I feel good? Should I focus on health? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and so everybody's pulling at those threads all the time, and it's kind of like we're always just,
and you struggle to
So
actually
that's
pull them back in.
struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the analogy. It's it's actually really, really visual for me when you describe it that way. And it made me think of something I noticed about email a number of years back, which is that email clogs up a lot of mental bandwidth for me. And when you describe it like that with the threads, it's like every email is a thread. But the thing about an email is that it's like it's such a painfully slow conversation. So when I'm talking to you, I say something, then you say something, then I say something, and it flows. And then when we're finished, we go and it's done. Whereas an email is like, I say something, and then I wait. Maybe I wait 5 minutes, maybe I wait 5 days. I don't know. but the conversation thread in my brain is plugged in, like awaiting the response.
Yeah.
But then I send another email, I open another thread, then I send another email, I open another thread. And then another one from like 5 days ago comes in. And it's like, okay. And so there's all these disparate threads that have to be on because they just don't know when that conversation is going to continue. So you're kind of, it's like you're having lots of conversations with lots of people. If you were in a room emulating email, it would be like I say one thing to you, and then you don't reply for like an hour, and then meanwhile I turn to the next person and say something to them, and then someone behind me says something to me about a completely separate conversation. And I think it's like
the context switching.
Context switching.
And they call it context switching.
But it's not just the switching; it's the
residue.
It's the residue. Yeah. That we're kind of always got it there, like in our RAM, because it's not finished yet.
Yeah. That's what the word context switch just implies, that you forgot about the thing, you loaded something else, but you never really forgot about it. It's just there. Like,
exactly.
Taking up a bit of, because it's like a to-do item. You've got to get back to it. Like if I don't have a to-do, for me, it's really helpful for me to have like, I have a to-do system, and I make sure if I can put it in there, I'm allowed to drop the thread, and it's all right. And sometimes it just I'm overwhelmed, and I have to get my mind map up, and I just have to dump it all out into mind map, and then I just kind of like, I'm allowed to forget about it. But as I was saying, I was imagining, but like, why was, like, I feel, not that I've ever written letters, but I feel that writing letters is different to email. It's almost like you're not expecting a conversation. You're really expressing, you're putting a lot of thought into it. Like, when you write emails, I do this. My problem with emails is, I spend way too long drafting an email. Like, I could comfortably spend hours drafting an email. And I'm not joking. Hours drafting an email. Cause I like think about how to, I'm treating this email as if it's like a blog post that I'm really trying to get out, like express this idea. And I spend way too long on it. But it's not designed for that. It's not. Well, I don't know. At Microsoft, I'll be honest. At Microsoft, people treated email as very much like that. It's like, I'm really going to express everything in this like massive document. It's like there's like a thing to send documents to people that are just massive long emails. But in other companies, it's like one sentence. Yeah, email is I can see. Yeah, everybody has their own coping mechanism with email, because it's a very everybody has their own coping mechanism,
and I guess that's the point.
Everybody is
the fact that everybody needs their own coping mechanism is the telling thing, really. That we're somehow being consumed by it. And that's just email.
Yeah.
That's not
That's
like
just
all
email.
the
That's
other
not even a
channels
yeah.
that we have open in our
Yeah.
digital lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That we don't have when we're, well, in the past particularly, but even now, like if we just, meet a friend and switch our phones off,
Yeah.
I mean, we might still have all that residue from the messages we read at breakfast
Yeah.
time and so on, but we have less. Like I use my autoresponder on my email as like a shield
Ah.
sometimes when I'm
Right.
like, I just need
Yeah.
some mental space, but my brain keeps
Yeah.
saying, oh, but there might be something that you need to respond to. So I'll put my autoresponder on sometimes for a day, sometimes for a few days, and just Tom's not available right now. And actually, it's just like I just don't want to have that like mental processing going on. So it's just
Yeah.
just a shield that like bats them off and says, "Don't
Yeah.
expect a reply anytime soon."
Yeah. 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 I'm busy right now. You can expect a reply, and like, yeah, it gives you the social excuse just to. That's why I haven't responded to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you don't
I
feel
just don't
guilty
respond
about
to
it.
people. I just don't feel. I just don't respond to people, and I hold that guilt
Right. Well, yeah. Well,
constantly
this is
in my
like how I
shoulder.
was, which then becomes like some sort of chronic pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from the perspective you're saying, by all many could say that email and all of these things is connection, but I think what you're saying is it doesn't feel like connection, and
Yeah.
in fact has a stressful aspect to it also. And even from your statement of I like an autoresponder on it, it feels it almost has this idea of a duty, a responsibility. It's like a burden. It's a
Yes.
burden to have it. It's not like, because if you loved your email, you'd be like, brilliant, I got an email.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, brilliant. Yes,
Which is how I would
will
feel
respond.
if
Yeah.
someone if I open my post box, my physical post box in the
Yeah.
morning, and there was a
Yeah.
real letter in there written by a real human, that's how I would feel. I'd be so excited. Oh my god, someone
Yep.
wrote me a letter.
You'd sit down, you make a cup of coffee, you make a
Yeah.
moment to open it up, and
Exactly. But
yeah.
emails feel like a burden, as you say, and we're just getting more and more of this, and we're getting kind of overloaded.
Do you feel
And
social media is a burden?
yeah, I do. I used to kind of think like, oh, LinkedIn's kind of all right, because in a way, in my head, I'd like framed it as not social media, and it's like a kind of a work thing, and it's very functional. But then over time, I've realized that that's a lie I told myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's social media.
To be fair, because I feel the same as you, but are we, just to put the other side of the story
Yeah.
on, are we the norm or are we outliers? Because there are people, I think, that maybe enjoy. I don't know who they are. They maybe enjoy actually being on social. Actually, that's a good question. Does anybody actually enjoy being on social media, or is it just something that it's either like an addicted an addictive game, or does anybody actually go on social media feeling, God, I just want to connect. That's why I'm on social media. I don't know.
Well, this is it, because I think it's a bit of a paradox, because I think there's lots of people who enjoy using social media, but I think they enjoy it like they enjoy eating Doritos.
Right.
Where it's like they do enjoy it. It's like
not
there's
healthy.
a pleasure to it.
Yeah.
But that pleasure is an addictive pleasure. And if they do it all the time, just like if you ate Doritos all the time, you would start feeling like worse for wear, and gradually feel like you're kind of, health is going downhill. And I think there's a fair amount of research showing that the more people use social media, the more their kind of mental health goes downhill. But at the same time, many of those people would probably say that they enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
God, that's so interesting. It's like if we treat, I think whenever he looks at a Dorito, I don't know, I can't say for everybody, but I think when I look at a Dorito, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of that Dorito. But I also know it's bad for me. I don't think people look at social media and there's other forms of digital connection and go, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this and it's bad for me.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't have that feeling about it. 2 days ago, I found myself again. I was on YouTube Shorts, and I just lost myself inside there. I cannot. Every one I go, this is the last one. No, this is the last one for like an hour. Like I literally felt like I'd eaten like a kilo of Doritos at the end of it. And it was
Right.
like 2 a.m, and I was like, I've got to get up in 4 hours. So, yeah, that's how. So this thing that is supposed to make us connected, I don't know.
Well, and it's
Okay,
a massive
positive.
distraction.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's a massive distraction in the sense that people, I mean, it's kind of a cliche now that people are just walking around with their phones in their hand and they're not looking around. People, they go out for a run in some beautiful scenery and they're like listening to music, listening to a podcast,
yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and it's all wonderful in some way. It's kind of brilliant. And if it motivates you to run, to have music, and then that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But it is this sort of addictive thing where it's like, actually, we have very little just quiet time to be with ourselves, enjoy the environment around us, talk to people one to one, and
It's got your threads.
it's
Yeah,
the threads, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And do you know the story of like the last town to get television?
No.
So basically, I can't remember the name of the town, but somewhere in North America, I think it's in Canada, there was a town that was like in the mountains in a really deep valley. So it's like surrounded by mountains on all sides. So when television became like widespread, they're broadcasting it nationally.
Yeah,
People are able to like afford to get televisions in their homes. There was this huge in North America. There was this huge kind of change in society, and this obviously played out in every country that got television eventually. But what people did in their leisure time changed drastically, and people spent a lot more time in their houses, gathered as a family around a television. And in a way, it was a wonderful thing because it's kind of fun watching TV and it's interesting and you can learn things from TV. And you could say like, oh, we've got all this access to information, which we didn't have before because we've got all these programs that we can watch and so on. So there's like, people would say they enjoyed it and there's clear benefit to it. But at the same time, before they had TV, they used to get bored. And because they used to get bored, they used to leave their house and go down the road to like a pub or a social club or something where there would be things happening and they can meet their friends and just hang out because there's nothing else to do.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and there was a bit of debate around whether TV had really caused this until somebody figured out that there's this town that like this was like a couple of decades after everyone else got TV. There was this town that still
You mean
didn't
they
have
didn't?
it.
When you say them, they didn't get this. The signal didn't
Didn't
go
get the
there.
signal, so no one had a
Right.
TV.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And basically they still had the social clubs and everyone went out and met their friends and did all these things. And then I don't know who it was, the government or the TV companies, whoever, decided that they're going to like bring TV to this town. And it was like almost overnight. It just changed. The social clubs closed down. Everyone just sat at home watching TV. And it was like, aha, we have conclusive proof that it was TV that did it. And I feel like social media is like that on steroids, where we think we're more connected because I can message you anytime. Like Sunday night, I'll just send Asim a message. He's not doing anything.
I'm putting kids to sleep.
Yeah. And in a way, it like does make us more connected because we can have those messages going back and forth. But on the other hand, it's like it's high quantity, low quality.
Like go back to letters. You would if we were writing letters to each other, it would be like very well thought out, eloquent. We'd rewrite it a couple of times. But you think about how you'd write it quite a few times, and you'd figure out how to explain yourself. But Or
Yeah,
just you
and
wouldn't.
the person who
You'd just be
received
different.
it would treasure it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's kind of a rare thing. They don't get like 50
Yeah.
letters a day. If they did,
Yeah.
they might
Yeah.
get fed up with
Yeah. Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. If you got 50 letters a day, you'd be like, oh, for God's sakes,
Stop writing
can't
me
deal with
letters.
this. Don't. So maybe just the quantity. So maybe to be fair on the whole thing, it's just maybe it's a you can handle a certain amount of. I think you're right. I think you were saying at the start there's like a fixed amount of attention that you can give anything a day, and
Yeah.
I think there's loads of actually studies around this as to like why you should try and do like all your deep thought work in the morning because you've got like a certain store of what you can do, and in the evening you do all your admin stuff, which is why none of my admin stuff ever gets done because by the time I always like that boundary's too. I screw up that boundary too much because you just have there's a certain amount you can deal with everything. There's a certain amount of decision making. That was it. There's a certain amount of decision. There's a fixed amount of decision making you can make in a particular day. And every communication is a decision. Everything is a decision. So we're kind of suddenly assaulted with decisions from the moment you wake up. It's one of the reasons I have like quite a strict process. God, I don't even tell people about it anymore because it's just so embedded in my life. Of like I used to when I was in banking. Honestly, the first thing I would do waking up is I'd reach over my BlackBerry, get my BlackBerry out, and the very first thing I would do is read emails. And I convinced myself it was how I would wake up because I'd see an email that I don't like, and I'm like, fucking. I'd just see this email, and I would like wake myself up. Then I realized it was just extremely unhealthy for me. That's my first experience in the morning. So now I have an entire process where I don't check kind of anything social, not even email or anything until I've like gone through my lengthy morning rituals, which my wife is like, I just get up and I go on it. And I'm like, yeah, but I need to do this and this, and I have to do my breath work on the floor, and then I've got to do my ice bath, and I've got to do this, and I got my coffee, and then I'll check the email. Because it's so easy to get sucked in. So I have like a very in a way, it's like that's like my gym. I know this stuff is unhealthy for me, so I'm doing stuff intentionally to keep my mind healthy, so I can deal with that ugly stuff later on because I have to because you can't survive life without email. Well, at our age, you can't. My
Yeah.
kids.
Well, at our age in our type of work, I mean,
Yeah,
I can't imagine there are, even if you're like an electrician or something that's like very
yeah,
much offline, I imagine
yeah.
you're still having to check emails and things all the time because you've got like customers emailing you and
Well, the young
yeah.
kids, to the young kids at 16, they're like, email, oh my God, that's so. And then they get a job,
Yeah.
and then they get a job, and then they're like, here's my email. As soon as you get into the business world, you've got to have an email. So they eventually get one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe it is a quantity thing. But I guess the question is like, what are we missing out on? Because we had like our last conversation was about governance and could we
Yeah.
fix government
Oh
and
God, yeah.
having like
Yeah.
participatory democracy in a very kind
Yeah.
of modern AI assisted way. And then it's been in my mind of like, how do you get people together to have those meaningful conversations? Because I think in some ways, like the technology is there to connect a lot more people and get them involved in a system like that where you could have more participation in the decisions and the governance of their local community all the way up to their country, their, their continent, whatever, or their company, whatever, their organization they work in. But at the same time, I wonder how much time they would be spending on their phones or whatever device they use, engaging with this thing versus like sitting in a room with some people having a really deep and meaningful conversation about what they want to happen in their community. And I think in a way, I don't have an answer to this at all, but I feel like a lot of the stuff that I don't know, like you see so much like polarization online. I don't know whether that's
Mm,
just because of the way that the platforms are configured to actually encourage that, or whether
yeah.
that's some sort of side effect of just being alone with your keyboard and no other like human beings around you to talk to. Um, but it feels like you get very different dynamics when you have people engaging in more direct, like human to human conversation, either one to
Yeah.
one or in a small group, compared to this sort of mass participation, which feels more connected because there's like, oh, look, there's 100,000 of us taking part in this process. But you don't really know anybody and you don't
Yeah.
really get
Yeah.
to like open yourself up to somebody and explore like deep and meaningful things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because if you're with let's go back in time to that town which didn't have TV. Like you'd be in your social clubs, and I guess I wonder like what people like. What did you talk about? Like what were your opinions? Like what would you even have opinions
What?
on? You didn't
Yeah.
have you didn't know what happened yesterday in the capital city. You didn't know what so and so was outraged with in Australia. You didn't know any of that stuff. So what were you what were you what were you talking? What would you would it be like really like gossip about like you know what Tom did, and did you hear what Tom and Vanita did
There
yesterday? My
probably
God,
was
they
a lot of
they
gossip.
chopped down their blah 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 tree. Oh my God, yeah. So I mean, would it be just equally pathetic gossip, or would it be like would it be really deep and meaningful conversations about like spirituality and the universe? Yeah, it's probably more like Tom and Vanita chopped down the tree. Did you hear? See,
Yeah.
Tom wore blue on the day we all wear red. I don't know. Like,
People in
is it
our
better?
town. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I imagine that there'd be a real mix. There'd be a lot of gossip, I think. There'd also be some
yeah.
people that like somehow find a quiet corner and go away and talk about some more meaningful things. Um,
Well, yeah. If I go back to kind of like Pakistan and places yeah, it's usually a lot of gossip, which is
99%.
99%, which is also it's the gossip is designed to control how should I put this? The social norms, like the social contract we have with each other. It's like and whatever that contract is in whatever situation it is, this kind of the gossip is designed to inform on people who are not adhering to the like social like norms and the
Yeah.
social
It's the
contract,
sort of
and that forces people to
self-policing of
get
society.
self-policing. Yeah, so it serves a function. It serves a function. But there's always people like even go back. There was always like somebody in each village who was like the knowledgeable person, or there's a number of knowledgeable people that people looked up to for their thoughts and advice, and they probably just went with whatever they said. I mean, sorry, they definitely, almost certainly sat and discussed issues that were important to them on a local level. Probably that's where, if they're focusing any of their time on governance, it would be that, because they wouldn't know about anything else, or they wouldn't care
Yeah.
about anything else.
Yeah. Which maybe that's like one of the shifts that's happened is that we've shifted our attention from what's happening right here in
Yeah,
our town, village, street, whatever it is, at a very local level, to now we're living our daily lives thinking about like big global things. And in some ways, that might be a good thing because at least then we're informed and we have kind of hopefully some level of participation. We can make different decisions in how we live our lives based upon that information.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, we're now like focused on things that we have very little actual direct
yeah.
influence on
True.
versus, and we're sort of completely disengaged from what happens
Yeah,
in down the street.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
does it
I just
come
feel
back to
like,
is that go on? Yeah,
no, I was just going to say, I sort of just feel like there's something that we're missing in the name of what we call connection. through
Yeah.
digital technology, particularly, and particularly after the pandemic, I've noticed a lot of people when I've been to events in person.
Yeah.
There's been almost like it's got to be a good event, obviously.
Yeah.
You could go to a
Yeah.
terrible event and be like, "Oh, I wish
Yeah.
I hadn't come." But
Yeah.
but if it's a half decent event, there's so many people. I felt like there's a need being addressed, and there's sort of like
Oh.
almost a relief happening when they get there and they start having a real like a good conversation with another human. Like, oh, this is so nice. This is so good. I need more of this, because we were locked in our houses for however long we were locked in. And then after that,
Yeah.
I mean, I worked from home most of the time before that anyway, so I was kind of used to being a hermit. And
Yeah.
so I'm maybe a complete hypocrite even raising this topic,
No.
nevertheless, yeah.
Even if you're, because I loved COVID. It was brilliant. Didn't just being at home. Me and my wife, we both loved it. It was absolutely great.
Yeah, it was like a caged animal scratching at the walls, and I was like, "Oh, it's so nice! It's so quiet," and there was this sense of relief of not all the bad things that were happening. That's separate. A separate conversation. But just in terms of the immediate, like pressures of day-to-day life, of you've got to be here and you've got to be there, and
you'll be
there's
here
all
by
this
this
noise
time.
around, and suddenly it's quiet and you can think, and
There's this whole, like in the UK, there was this month after the first lockdown, everybody was like off work. Many people being paid on off work, so there was it was like a holiday in the UK. It was like everybody was off at the same time. Everybody was happy, and when I was chatting to my neighbors, I was like, it was all warm. It was like a lovely time. I remember it very, very warmly and positively, and then it went dark afterwards. But yeah.
But I guess maybe that's an example
of disconnection.
Yeah, of disconnection.
Deep disconnection.
In a way, it's sort of, there was a positive side to it where we could have, if we were lucky, we could have time to reconnect with ourselves and maybe reconnect with
partners,
family who live, in our homes, maybe our neighbors. But at the same time, then we got so disconnected that people became very insular and
well, perhaps, but also I think it depends on the situation. So for instance, you live in a house with a garden, and I live in a house with a garden. So being locked up in a house with a garden was actually not the worst thing in the world, but being locked up in a flat was agonizing. I had plenty of people locked up in a flat. So it was to them that so I suppose it just changed the paradigm for a lot of people. And for some people, it increased local connection. For some people, it increased like a disconnection because they lost even whatever connection they had with other people. But for me, it was like a very local connection. I disconnected. I suppose when you're saying, "Oh, what did I disconnect from?" Well, I seem to have disconnected from pressures and people. And I wasn't traveling. My wife was at the time having to travel to London every single day, so that kind of like disconnected from there. But then reconnected here, not just between ourselves, but like neighbors and stuff like that. So there was a more meaningful connection because we could just, I don't know, just more meaningful. It just felt more. We hadn't actually. When we moved, we knew our neighbors, but we weren't really like friends with them until COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have these weird situations. Like I've experienced it a couple of times when there's been an extreme snow in the UK. And then like all the roads are like covered in snow and no one can get to work. And obviously if that directly, for people where they literally are going to like lose their livelihood because of it, that's super stressful. But for a lot of people, it's not that life-threatening for one day. And I've experienced a couple of times where the roads have been closed and people have come out on the streets and they're just like walking around because there's no cars on the street. So people are just walking in the middle of the road and they're like, kids are throwing snowballs around and they're pulling sledges and people have been in kind of good spirits and talking to people locally who they would normally just walk past because they're busy and they're on their way to somewhere and they've got to get something done. And suddenly it's like, oh, we just like, it's like almost like a festival. We're just sort of but connecting with people who live up the road from us, who we just ignored until today. And I think sometimes you need, that's kind of a disconnecting to reconnecting thing, where it's like the snow makes you disconnect from like all of your daily pressures because you just can't do it today. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it was a school day. Snow days at school days were brilliant days. It was like, oh,
yeah.
brilliant. Oh, school's
Exactly.
down. School's out. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel about? I mean, because I mentioned about my threads, but I actually think that it is probably like I do think that there is a physical, not physical, well, maybe physical, but there's like a when you're with another human being, more than just like, oh, there's more subtle body language, and this and that, and the other. I do think there's something else going on there. Electric fields, there's other things that we can sense. We're experiencing a lot of different things from other people. And I think you can go to places where you're like, I don't want to be in this bioelectric field anymore. I want to leave this field of bioelectric because there's something wrong with it. I don't like this room. I want to exit this room.
The bad vibe in here.
The bad vibe in here. I want to go. But there's other bioelectric field. There's just walking through them is kind of nice. Like sometimes I do like when I used to live in Hong Kong. If I would just walk around, the city's so busy. There's millions of people. 2 a.m, like you just walk around, everything's open. So it's just like an experience of just walking through and kind of like being with people. And like maybe there's a spiritual aspect to there as well. Like you mentioned Reiki. I mean, there's no, what's the science behind it? There's something going on. There's no, like, what's the thing? Because you could Reiki me right now, couldn't you? You wouldn't even need to be near me. You can do remote Reikiing, I believe.
Well, yeah, I mean, supposedly we didn't get into that on our beginner's course.
Yeah, beginner's course. That's advanced. But there's like an energies.
Yeah.
There's like energies that you get when you're physically nearby people as well, which we don't have right now.
Exactly. And I actually read recently, bizarrely, in a book, The Psychology of Totalitarianism, by Matthias Desmet, who's a professor of psychology in Belgium. And
you're getting the plan. You're getting the plan together.
That's it. Well, after our discussion about like fixing government, I thought, right, let's do it. But he goes off on like some wild tangents in this book, and at various points I'm thinking like, what has this got to do with the psychology of totalitarianism? But to be fair, it's all very interesting, and he does sort of bring it all back together again. But one of the things he said was very closely related to what you're just saying. It's like the reason that Zoom calls can be like, a lot of people really struggle with Zoom calls in a way that they don't with a in-person conversation. And he said the reason that Zoom calls can be really difficult is because there's a mismatch between what your brain thinks is happening and what your body thinks is happening. So when you're on a Zoom call, your brain says, I'm having a conversation with Asim, and Asim is here. I can see him, I can hear him. He's here. But my body somehow energetically knows that Asim's not here. I can't feel him anywhere. And you get this weird kind of dissonance between the mind and the body that feels sort of uncomfortable, and somehow, I don't know, there's just something kind of not right about it. And you can do it for a while because you sort of fool yourself that it's just as good as being there in person. But people who sit on Zoom calls every day get really tired of them in a way that people who are in like with the same people in a room, I mean, you might get fed up of some people, but you don't get like
in a physical.
But it's different. It's a different kind of fed up.
Different, yeah. It's like I need some fresh air type fed up.
Yeah.
But no, it was a thing, and especially with the way I remember with Zoom. Zoom's got another issue, which is the meeting ends and 45 milliseconds later, another meeting starts with another person with another background, and you context switch. You don't have that physical aspects of like I used to have, because it used to go like, oh, I've got to leave now because I've got to go to the other side of the building to have my other meeting, because you got to leave like 5. That was a kind of normal thing to do, and that gives you like a moment to just reframe and get used to a different conversation, which is Zoom doesn't have that. But yeah, you're right. I don't remember my first live conversation with video. And I'm just thinking, why don't I remember that? Do you remember yours? I don't remember my
Yeah.
first. You remember yours?
Yeah. It was so when I was doing an internship with this design company,
Yeah,
they were these young guys who were like all high tech and
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
and they were using this thing called Skype and
Yes, I think it's called Skeep.
Skype. And I was like, wow, what's Skype? And they got me to download it and with they because I was at home
It would have been Skype, wouldn't it?
doing
Yeah,
some of my work
yeah,
from home in the time
yeah,
when it was like kind of not really. I mean, when
yeah,
was this? Like 20 years ago.
yeah,
So Skype must have been pretty new.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
remember,
2000. Yeah,
yeah, and I remember like these really jerky, like low res video, and but it was still kind of mind blowing because I remembered that on when I was a kid, I'd seen on Tomorrow's World the BBC show about the future, which I used to love.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
remember when they showed like this prototype video phone that had been developed by
yeah,
British Telecom, and I was like,
yeah,
"Wow! In the future, we'll be able to pick up the phone and we'll be able to see this like tiny image of like the person on the other end."
yeah,
There I am, probably not that much later, probably only like I don't know, like 8, 10 years later.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
there
yeah,
on a Skype call, and on my computer, and yeah, the sound's bad, the video's terrible,
yeah,
but it feels super futuristic.
yeah. God, yeah, it was terrible, wasn't it? I just remember how bad Skype was.
Yeah,
Hear anybody?
yeah.
Now I remember, yeah, I think it must have been, yeah, it must have been in banking. It must have been 2005, 2004, 2005, 2006, like one of those jobs.
Mm.
I just do not remember. Because the thing is, I don't remember a moment where I was like, holy shit! What the? Wow! I just don't, I feel I would remember that. I don't remember it at all. So maybe, I don't know, maybe, this very well could be the reason why. In most of my life that I've experienced Skype, uh, most of the people have had their cameras off,
Right.
all the way through. It was like a really big thing. I remember even at Microsoft, like 6, 7 years ago, it was like, we're just asking everybody on the call if you wouldn't mind, if you're in a position to, would you mind switching on your camera? But only if it's okay and you're in a position to and you're comfortable doing so. Would you mind switching on your camera? And a number of people would be like, I don't know where mine is. Oh, where is my camera? I swear, 4 or 5 times I've had people switch on their camera and it's like fallen behind the computer and they've never known. Oh, that's where it is. Because it's like it was so normal just not even to have video, and and
Yeah.
then you're just talking, and then that was even more. You're just sitting there and you're talking, and I don't know why it's different to just having a phone call. You were frustrated because you couldn't see the other person, you didn't know what they were doing, were
Yeah.
they just ignoring you? But I suppose with a phone call you'd have that as well. But I don't know, it felt different. It felt like
Well, I think it is different because I think
yeah,
on a video call, there's a feeling of like there's a feeling of
yeah,
expectation that there's a
yeah,
person there and you have your camera on and
yeah,
you want to see them and have what feels like an in-person conversation. And you're
yeah,
also sort of locked. I mean, you can do a video call obviously on your phone, but this is like a lot of Zoom calls and things are done on a computer where you feel very static.
yeah,
And so you're looking at your screen and
yeah,
then there's nothing to look at but you feel sort of bad to look away because you're on camera. So you keep just
yeah,
looking at this blank screen, which is really, really kind of frustratingly boring. Whereas
yeah,
on a phone call, I feel like you have no expectation of seeing anybody. It's just like that's what you have. That's the contract you've entered
mm,
into, is that we're just going to hear
mm,
each other. And
yeah.
I can wander around while you're talking on the phone and I can look at whatever I want. I can fiddle with things around the house or,
Yeah, true.
you
Yeah, 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 yeah. But my agreement is I'm going to listen to you.
that's the agreement. I'm going to
Yeah,
listen
that's the
to you.
agreement. Like it would be, it would be the equivalent of having a phone call and then putting it on mute.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not even going to listen to you. So we've
Yeah,
agreed to have a video call, and we're not on video. But yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I remember. I don't know, it's a side on topic, but I do remember there was on one of those calls, and I had my camera off as well because everybody had their camera off, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm having my camera off. And you know what? I was learning the flute. So my flute's there. I was learning the flute, and I was like, "What? Do you know what? I'll just practice flute while I'm on these ridiculously long calls when I'm invited into. No one's got their camera on. I'll still listen to them, but I'll just practice my flute." And then someone asked a question, and I meant to kind of press the space bar to like answer it. I somehow pressed the button so my camera was displayed, and they're like, "Asim, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I practice my flute while you're talking. I'm still listening. I'm just practicing my flute at the same time." That was like so funny. That was like because the expectation is you're not practicing your flute. But they all
Right.
loved it actually. They loved the fact I was practicing the flute.
But that's it. There's the contract you're entering into is sort of that I'm going to sit here on my computer and stare at the screen attentively.
Yeah,
And
with
then,
you.
but you want that other half of that to be fulfilled, that they're also going to
Yeah,
have their camera
but they're
on and
not.
they're going to be giving their attention as well.
We've agreed to tie some of our threads together. We've agreed.
Yeah.
I'm giving you
Exactly.
my time. We've agreed. Like in a what's that? Avatar film. We've agreed to join. That's quite sexual, isn't it? We've agreed to join our little threads.
No, I never
it?
agreed to this.
Oh no,
Asim.
it's not. Actually, no. They do it with animals. But yeah, so well, there's an agreement there, and because of the worst is this, and I'm sure you've done it. I've done it myself, which I'm like very conscious of not doing that. You're on a call with somebody who screen shared something with you, and you're carrying on the conversation with them, and they've just gone into their email and they've forgotten they're still screen
Yeah.
sharing with it. Oh, you've done, yeah. And you're like, and you're too you're like, and they're like, yep, yeah, I fully, yep, yeah, yeah. And you're like, for fuck's,
Yeah.
what
But
are we
you
even
can tell
doing
even if
here?
they're not screen sharing.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can
I've been
tell.
on so many calls with people where I'm just looking at them and I'm like, are you reading your emails? Are you typing an email?
You're typing an email, yeah. I tell you when you're on the call, it's one thing I learned. When you're on the call with like VPs at kind of like megacorps, like well Microsoft and Intel and places, the agreement is different. The contract is different. The contract is they're on the call. They're not going to turn the camera off because they don't really give a shit what you think about what they're doing. But they are going to check their emails and they are going to do other things while they're listening to you.
Right.
And that's kind of like the thing you realize is like, yes, they are typing, they're messaging, they're answering Slacks, and they're also they're only going to give you 2 of their threads. They're not going to give you all 8 of them.
Mm.
They're only going to give you 2 of them. So there's a different contract there. But anyway, from God, there's so much frustration with email. There's so much frustration. I'd actually argue that the technologies we have today is like way better than that. At least at least we have like Zoom and Teams and stuff is better. At least the Skype was terrible, and it got worse because I'm going to moan about Skype for a second because Skype, what retailers had was amazing. What if you and me, like as a consumer, bought Skype was amazing, and then there was something called Skype for Business. It
Yeah.
was only what businesses bought Skype for Business. What people don't quite realize is Skype was a startup. It was built in Estonia, and I don't know what technology was built. It was built this technology, and it was revolutionary. Microsoft bought Skype, and they said, "Oh, we can rewrite this in." I forgot the language. It was not even a language. It was .NET with some technology, and that's what Skype for Business was. And that's why Skype for Business was always terrible. Like the quality was terrible. You
So
could
it
never
was never
hear
even
people.
really the same software.
It was never even really the same software. So we were just like, "Oh God, Skype for Business, Jesus." Anyway, sorry. And then they built Teams, and Teams was actually really good. They learned their lessons.
Have you ever
But
used on Teams? I don't know if it's still there because I don't use Teams, but
yeah,
sometimes when my team and
yeah,
I
yeah.
were on client calls where the
They use
client used
Teams,
Teams, we would put it in
yeah.
what we call forest parliament mode, which is like
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it where there's like you
Everybody
can switch
spaces
the
them.
view and it's like a little, it's like a kind of an amphitheater in a forest.
Yes.
And
Oh,
everyone's
I've
like
been the forest one. Yeah.
and everyone's facing out.
They started that at COVID because that was their response to everybody feeling disconnected
I think they
with
call
the
it, yeah, they
whole
call it together mode or something, don't they?
together mode. Yeah, and it was like that activity kind of helped psychologically certain people to deal with
Mm.
the with the
Yeah,
mode.
to feel like we're
But it
more
was kind of
connected when we're
more connected.
disconnected.
Yeah, I mean disconnected. So that's like so we just mentioned like a whole bunch of things that we're really upset with these technologies that are supposedly there to make us more connected. Like social media for me and you doesn't make us feel more connected. And we feel the pressures of the addiction of it.
Mm.
Email is a duty, is a burden, maybe because of the volume of it. These technologies are so many examples of the frustrations of this level of because if you're face to face, you wouldn't do that to somebody, would you? You wouldn't like to open your notebook and go, yeah, 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 yeah. You wouldn't do that. It'd be so rude. Um,
Yeah.
so all these technologies are not bringing us, making us more connected, and we're missing out on the kind of the ethereal, whatever, positive or negative, you know,
I
auras.
think that's it. I think in a way there's sort of the benefits come when we get an opportunity to connect with people who we really genuinely want to connect with and would not have otherwise been able to do so. So
Yeah,
I feel like this podcast is a good example of that, where we live
yeah,
quite far away from each other
yeah,
geographically. And
yeah,
so we wouldn't be able to have these conversations. We just wouldn't do it. We'd meet like once a year, maybe.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And whereas instead we can get together once every couple of weeks,
Very convenient.
and it's
Yeah.
very convenient. And so I think that's a really good
God,
thing.
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But then Riverside
Yeah.
is not trying to make us feel addicted, and there's
Mm,
like the thread is quite, like you said, we're very focused. We put like most of our threads on this conversation while we're in it.
mm.
But then we walk away. It's not like we've half finished it and then we're both walking around for the rest of the day, and we could just like, I don't know, it's like an
Maybe I
email
haven't
that they could
finished.
just pop in at any time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very contained, which I think is good.
I
And
think it's because
Zoom
you.
calls can do that, but only if they're meaningful.
I think it comes back to you as an individual. Like you have to be present. Like I remember, I just really remember this. It was my first or second, maybe my first. And I think it was my first ever ayahuasca ceremony. And I went to the place I was going at the time in Holland. One of the guides, just we were all sitting in the room. I was a bit nervous. One of the guys just came around and just spent like 20, 30 seconds with each person. His name was Muhammad. I remember him quite vividly because just the way he looked at me, it was hard to describe. The way my brain like translated it is like, this is the first time anybody's ever given me all their threads.
Yeah.
It's like a moment, just like, wow. When he asked me, how you doing? I really felt it. That
Mm.
he, at that moment, he really, how are you doing? Like all of his attention. And it just felt just so incredible. I still remember it like years later to this day, there's this guy for 20 seconds speaking to me. Because I think he'd mastered the art of like really being present with a human being. And I've never mastered this and like given them all of your attention. And it was magical. I can't really describe it. It was like a explosion going off in my head. And
Yeah.
yeah, never had
Yeah.
that with anybody since.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I'm not going to say it was the same level as what you just described, but something in that direction was what I felt last weekend at the Reiki thing. There was just a very unusual level of feeling present. And yeah, it just made me feel like, oh, why is this not normal? Why do we find it so hard to? And are we getting worse at it because of like we're distracted by so many more things, or we just spend less time in person with people?
Well, I suppose if you were in person with somebody, you can tell when they're not really paying attention,
Mm.
much attention to what you're saying. Like you can tell. And if you're having a conversation with somebody, that's the point at which you go like, all right, mate, yeah, so yeah, I'll see you next week or something like that. You'll give them the out, you know, be like, okay,
Yeah.
they want to not be there, so let's just stop talking. But if you maybe not Muhammad level like focus, but like when you are having like a face to face, like you mentioned, you're right. Like we are having a very focused conversation with each other. We don't have that anymore. Even with social media, are you having a focus? You're not. You actually when you're posting even when you're having a threaded conversation with somebody, are you having a focused conversation with them? I don't know. Are you giving
Yeah.
them all your threads? I suppose you are actually. When I'm responding to somebody, I'm really thinking through
Mm.
what they maybe said. I'm really thinking through my interpretation of what they may have meant by the words that they wrote on a piece, on a thing, and
Yeah.
I have very few opportunities to clarify, and I'm trying to write a response which gauges it properly. Yeah.
Well, and there's the limitations of writing there as well, aren't there? That
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of the communication, there might be video posts which are kind of one-way communication, but a lot of the actual conversation that happens on social media is short snippets of writing which actually
Yeah.
are hard to convey like the true meaning of what you want to say, and then in turn that makes it hard to really read like the. I mean, even with emails, I find I mean, over
Yeah.
the years, I've either been involved in or witnessed so many misunderstandings where somebody wrote a perfectly
Yeah.
innocent email, somebody
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
read it with a completely different tone of voice. The words were
Yeah.
the same, but the tone of voice that they
Yeah.
applied was completely
Yeah.
different. And then they're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like,
Yeah.
how could they
Yeah.
say this then? And then they
Yeah.
get really upset. And then you're like, but what? It doesn't say anything bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because like written language is actually a really
Yeah.
limited communication format, especially when you try
Yeah.
to shrink it down to a small number of words, like pretty much all social channels do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So whereas if you pick up the phone, you hear people's tone of voice, and you can really kind of, even if you're not physically present, you can feel what they mean as much as
Yeah.
rationally hear what they are saying. Um,
Th Then again,
yeah.
how do you feel about when people read one of your articles?
Mm.
Like,
I'd
are
say
they connecting with you? Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd say on some level it's it's like social media plus, in the
Yeah.
sense that, like, I mean, I enjoy writing and it
Plus,
helps
plus,
me.
I'd say.
Plus plus,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of effort to yeah,
Yeah.
go on, sorry.
So it's much better, and I enjoy the process of writing that a lot more than I enjoy the process of writing like a social media post, and it helps me shape my own thoughts, and I hope other people will get something positive out of them. But in terms of like the relationships I feel I'm forming with people, I feel it's very limited. Occasionally, something meaningful will come out of one, where often not offline, but off the platform. Off, like the more meaningful ones often come as like somebody sends me an email or maybe a LinkedIn message, but like a private LinkedIn message,
Mm.
sharing their thoughts about a
Yeah.
topic that I've written about or something like that. And then that might actually become a bit of a written back and forth that does feel more meaningful, but still nowhere near as
We're
good as if we
connected,
just had
yeah.
a conversation.
Yeah. So it's like a lead, but you're putting your thoughts out there on the web, putting your thoughts out there on the seeing, and you're just seeing what vibrates. And so maybe looking at it, it's not really you're not really connecting with people. You're just putting the net out to see if people want to connect with
Yes.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
on a more meaningful level. But we don't really have that hierarchy of like we don't really elevate people. Like if there was a social network which was like, here's my net. Next level is you read my article. Next level you have a phone call. Next level a video call. Next level we're actually meeting up face to face. If there was like an official connection stream of like increasingly, you know, tight connections, then Christ, that's a brilliant idea. We should do that one.
Yeah.
That's actually,
Actually
I
sounds
would
quite
use
good.
that. That's actually quite good. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna post. Why am I doing this social media post? Because I want to meet somebody face to face eventually. Yeah. Actually, no, I'm not joking. That's really triggering a nice little, nice little vibe with me. Can somebody build that? Who's listening to this? Because I do not have time. But if somebody could, I would be your first customer.
Yeah. No, I think that would be good. Um, but I think on some level, yeah, I don't know. Feel like we're just spending a lot too much time connected to things that are actually a very low quality connection, and then we're so distracted that we forget to make these like higher quality connections, whether they are one-to-one conversations like this or actually physically spending time with people in person. And I think because of the addictive element of it, it's not even all intentional. It's not like people are getting up in the morning thinking, what I really want to do with my day is spend like, I don't know, like an hour on Instagram and 45 minutes on WhatsApp and 1.5 hours on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah.
and another hour on YouTube Shorts.
Two, three. But like you mentioned the word like connection, but I also it's interesting because it's the connection. A connection is nothing. Like I have two cables can be connected, but that doesn't mean anything. If you make a connection, you're transferring information back and forth. You're transforming, yeah. So like, and social media is not really connection because it's like a cable out there that's frayed at the ends, and you're just sending it out, and you see what happens, and it's the low quality. You're not really too sure what you're connecting with. When you're having a call like this, we're like sharing information. When you're having like a more physical interaction, it's like a much tighter connection, and you can share a lot more information back and forth. The reason I'm talking about information rather than like anything else is I'm wondering if there's like a more abstract way of looking at this, because one thing that you and I also believe is that we're not real.
Yeah.
So what's the point? This microphone doesn't exist. It's just a materialism is, we're just consciousnesses doing something, and like maybe all that matters in it from a consciousness perspective is that like what information is my consciousness like absorbing. The fact that we're not near it. There's something about being near each other in this material invented realm which enables more information to pass between two consciousnesses, or a higher quality of information to pass between two consciousnesses. And a consciousness which is trying to connect with others through social media is not having this kind of like high quality stuff, or is just feeding just into his head, into this consciousness. It's feeding kind of low quality information or unselected information into its consciousness. So it's maybe like
Yeah.
from that abstracting level, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, because you can have a connection and then there just be no information flow. Whereas, as you say, a really good in-person connection is it's like you're receiving you're receiving information on like a lot of different channels at the same time about the same thing. So
On
an
social
email,
media.
well, no, in
Or
person. So I don't
oh
mean social channels. I mean like perceptual channels. What
right,
like
yeah, like
sort of
senses and yeah.
yeah. So if I send you an email, it's almost like it's like a
One
mono
channel.
signal. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
here's
There's
some
no
text.
richness to it.
There's
There's
no
no
richness.
richness to it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whereas if we're in
Yeah.
person, then you get not just the verbal and the visual benefit of being there and seeing and hearing the nuance of everything they're saying, but you're also feeling that and their energy somehow. Like there are additional channels that we don't even know what they are, that we're just sort of sensing things about the person in real time that layers up that information to a much greater depth. And the more layered it is, the better it feels in some way.
So it's like I've just got this analogy in my head about Whole Food. So it's like Whole Foods is like you're getting all of it, all the different things is all getting mushed up, and they all have different characteristics, and it adds a real richness to whatever it is that you're consuming, both not just from a taste perspective, but for your body's like nourishment.
Yeah.
Whereas like white bread is just they've still taken that thing and they've just stripped it out and extracted it to what is the most addictive, what is the most interesting, and like social media and there's other things is kind of like from an informational perspective is like the white bread
Yeah,
of information, and
yeah.
it's easy to consume. You can consume a lot of it. It looks like information.
It looks like bread.
It looks like bread. It looks like food, but it's bad for you as well if you have too much of it. Whereas a human interaction, kind of like two consciousnesses, like face to face, is like a rich, healthy, hearty, whole food. You've got everything. You've got the white, you've got the refined stuff, but you've also got all the other things, all the other channels
Yeah,
of information, and it kind of happens on multiple layers. And so, yeah, maybe it's yeah, I like
I think that's a really good
information.
analogy. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm laughing in my head because my company's called Whole Grain Digital.
oh great, I know.
And
But
it's like,
as above, so below. There's like
that's it.
all the patterns. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. But on some level, like Whole Grain Digital is in itself sort of an oxymoron, right? Because if digital
Well, oh, the white bread of
is the white bread,
information. Yeah.
yeah, it can never be a whole food.
Well, no, maybe you're the brown bread.
And that's
Whole
it's
grain
kind
digital is a brown bread.
of sort of the light
It's a bit
brown.
better. It's
Yeah,
a little bit better. A little bit better. With some added
yeah,
seeds. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. Some added seeds,
Some added seeds.
sourdough. You know,
You're the sourdough. Sourdough of digital. But I really like where we've ended up here. I feel that's a kind of yeah, because I feel it brings in the spiritual aspects as well, because that's just one more like channel, one more aspect
Mm,
of it, and yeah, and it kind of and it also speaks a little bit to this is on you as well to ensure that the quality of information that you're getting is high, and that quality is determined by, are you interacting with somebody who's reciprocating the amount of attention and respecting the amount of attention that you're giving them, and are you fundamentally connecting with the right people to feed you the information that you want. I love this saying, which is like, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the
yeah.
most, because that's it. You just mirror stuff. You are you on YouTube Shorts? Is your feed? Me and my wife were talking today about what our feed looks like.
Bet they're very different.
They're both about Israel and Gaza. My feed is Israel killed Charlie Kirk. I don't know if you want to keep this in. Israel killed Charlie Kirk, and her feed is just babies and death and destruction and all sort of
Ooh.
stuff. Oh, it's all awful. And so we were like, we've got to feed, we've got to change the information. We've got to not watch this stuff. We started watching Love Is Blind.
It's a lesser
It's
evil.
a lesser evil, but I don't know if it is, because I hate it so much. I hate it so much.
I mean, Love is Blind is a great example, though, right? Of
Yeah, yeah,
this, in a way, I don't know. On the one hand, they're trying to get people to have higher quality communication, like deep and meaningful conversations that they wouldn't have if they were on a dating app. But on the
yeah.
other hand, they can't see each other. So there's like
It's true. It's true.
there's a
Yeah,
channel missing that
yeah,
they're still
yeah,
separate from each other. It's almost like they're on a Zoom call with their cameras off,
yeah. And you've got to, yeah,
and but they're being
and they
encouraged to have really
well, they're
meaningful conversations
focused.
on the Zoom call.
They're having. You watch it as well. You clearly watch it. They're having like focused. Don't deny
See,
it.
I
Don't
have seen
deny
it.
it.
I'm
I
ashamed
haven't
to
seen it.
admit.
You're ashamed to admit. So because they have to, when they go on their little dates, it's just you and them focused on each other, and you don't even have, you suppose you don't even have the distraction of like, if you saw them, part of your brain would be thinking about, oh, what do they look like? Oh, they look nice. So it wouldn't be like thinking about that. You have like a true. The problem is, it's just I know how engineered it is. I know how engineered. I don't believe that it's truly what's going on is what's going on. I think there's a lot of um, editing that goes on after the fact. But anyway, who cares about Love Is Blind? So so it's the quality of the. Yeah, I think it's the quality of the information that
Yeah.
that 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 comes to you. Yeah.
And maybe a good way of looking at it, using your analogy, and also bringing back the earlier kind of idea we talked about of Doritos. So if you're on YouTube Shorts, is it just like you're just binging on Doritos, and it feels good, like it's
Mm,
pleasurable in the
yeah.
moment, but then
Yeah.
afterwards you sort of feel a bit sick and
Yeah.
have some regret, perhaps.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, whereas you could have a type of connection and interaction that feels nourishing, to use the sort
Yeah.
of the Whole Foods analogy. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so maybe that's how we should be filtering or judging our the way that we consume information. Is like, is does this feel like I'm being nourished by it, or does it feel like I'm just getting a kind of a quick hit of dopamine?
Well, then again, that's on you. I remember my old boss, and I've started to do it as well myself because my feed is just terrible right now. Which was he carefully the algorithm tells you a lot about the algorithm is a problem, but it also tells you a lot about you at the current moment in your time. Like why are you clicking on the things that you're clicking on? But it also gives you a mechanism to get out of it because you just force yourself to absorb other information. Um, so I'm like actively clicking on. I'm found some guys that do uh it's really quite cute. Just recycling.
Yeah,
There's a guy that tries to recycle things, and there's one guy that just recycles electronics. Johnny the tech guy, I think it's called, and it's just him for like 20-30 minutes trying to fix a Nintendo Switch, and he's trying to figure out which resistors are broken, and he's just watching it. And you're like, this is quite nice actually.
yeah,
And so then your feed just turns. Then I want more of this. I want more I want to. That's me like actively trying to change. And what I have done in the past is I've deleted my YouTube history, and I've gone. I need to reset. I can't.
yeah. It's a
I'm
good idea.
this algorithm. Yeah. But anyway, that's still just YouTube. But like, you need to like nourish yourself with like meaningful like relationships. And that's on you, I'd say though, to nourish
That
yourself.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. I think it's just about being proactive and trying to seek out more of that nourishing connection in a world that is bombarding us with um, Doritos.
How would you? Yeah, how would you recognize a nourishing connection? How would you? Because you're sitting there and somebody's offering you uh a bagel. Oh, a
Mm,
lovely bagel covered in jam. I can't think of something. Peanut butter and jam. Oh, lovely, nourishing. Oh, but it's not nourishing. It's just they're offering you a bunch of donuts. Someone's offering you donuts,
yeah.
and you want those donuts, and your brains want those donuts, and then on the other side is a bean stew of a connection. I mean, how do you recognize? How do you even recognize that's a donut and that's a bean stew? And then how do you bring yourself to say no to the donut and yes to the bean stew? I mean,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think some of it's sort of obvious. Like
yeah,
maybe the donut versus the bean stew, in a literal sense, like you would see the difference. Once you've spent
yeah,
enough time thinking, once you've had the thought process of this is what I'm looking for, then you would see that this is more fits the brief of what I think I'm seeking out.
yeah,
Um, you still have the problem of overcoming that kind of physical impulse that's pulling you, saying donut, donut,
donut.
um,
Oh
and
God,
you have to
yeah,
kind of override it to go to the bean stew, and you might not always succeed. Um,
yeah,
but then in the digital world, where it may not be as obvious. I think some social media definitely looks like donuts.
yeah,
That's like I was saying to you the
yeah,
other day about like I'm not going to install TikTok on my phone because to me it
yeah.
looked like a donut.
It's a donut. It's a donut.
Yeah,
It's a donut.
but then at the same time, I think once you're in it, because sometimes you might get into something thinking, oh, it seems harmless, and then you might not realize that it's not. So I think maybe it's just a case of, just like with foods, to sort of try and cultivate an awareness of how you feel afterwards, so that you learn, like, oh yeah, it kind of tasted good at the time, but I've been feeling a bit queasy all afternoon since I ate that thing.
Well, wait a second. Let's just take this a bit further, because with physical fitness, I mean, there are symptoms that you're unhealthy, and
Yeah,
those symptoms are, I mean, the weight scale. I mean, you might want to eat the Doritos because
yeah,
you're looking at this number and you want to make that number go down, or general fitness levels. You want to run a distance or something like that, so you're keeping track. So that's at kind of like the back of your mind or something. When it comes to connection and absorbing information and connecting with people, um I don't know, like, is there a way I could, I don't know, I don't know, like, what are the symptoms, what are the way, I don't think there is an answer to this. I think it's impossible.
mm,
But what are the ways I would signal to myself, I binge watched 2 hours of YouTube shorts, or no, let's forget about digital. I hung out with that friend.
mm,
It was a
yeah.
lot of fun. A lot of fun, but is the donut version of Friends instead of that friend that is the bean stew friend.
Because it's sort of mental and
Who,
emotional well-being, really, isn't it?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
we need, the Clue app. I don't know. Um,
The app, I know the
Vanita
game.
uses it, so no.
Yeah.
So this men don't use this app, but the Clue app is for periods. But
Okay,
you may be,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you may
Yeah,
be aware
yeah,
of it.
yeah, yeah. You can track. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it's really interesting because it asks, it's got these options of like, how do you feel? And Vanita will just hit a few, so that then some of them are positive and some of them are negative. So it might be like, oh, I'm feeling excited and energetic, or it might be like, I'm feeling irritable and lethargic. And you can hit as many or as few as you want, but then it kind of tracks you over time.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and actually, something like that would be really useful for sort of online engagement, where like, if after each online engagement, like an hour afterwards, it's like, how do you feel? How do you feel now? I feel
yeah,
a bit,
yeah.
feel distracted,
Feel a bit shit.
angry.
Yeah, yeah. Or it could be like there's calorie
Yeah,
engagement. I
yeah,
mean, there's it'd be the opposite. You want a lower score as possible or as high a score as possible? Maybe the highest score as possible. So this would score like a great, 100 groats per minute of this interaction is great. Or maybe you want to reach, like, it's like steps, isn't it? You want to get to 5,000 steps. You want to reach
yeah,
5,000 great connection quality points a day. And that's either 53 hours of YouTube shorts or just a really good conversation with a mate for like an hour. I mean, that's like,
yeah.
you could, yeah. And that's how,
You could probably actually do like psychological studies where you could actually like calculate different
yeah,
types of
yeah,
interactions and how many points they're worth.
yeah.
Um, that could be pretty interesting,
It's
actually.
quite interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I could like anecdotally just score different types of interactions. And then I find it quite useful for me just to try and track things that I'm doing, and it somewhat maybe motivates me to do things. But yeah, that I could set myself a target of like 1,000 points a day of interactions. Like sometimes when I track, I use doesn't matter. Well, I use Obsidian, and one of the things you do in Obsidian is I do a daily note. And in my daily note, one of the things I track is like what gave you energy and what sucked energy for the day. So one of the reflections I have on the day, and it's always really interesting. Like a lot of the things I say, like some days I'll start the day going, I kind of feel like shit. Fucking hell, what's this is gonna be a shit day. And then I go, what gave you energy? I'm like, oh, had a really good conversation at 1 p.m. with that person.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was a great chat. Okay, it was on Zoom, whatever. It was a really good chat, and it really gave me a lot of energy, and I felt really good for the rest of the day. I've had
Yeah.
multiple times I've written that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're so right. That actually happened to me last week when I got up in the morning and I was like, oh. I felt a bit just
Yeah.
not in a great mood, and so I had this Zoom call in my calendar for 10 o'clock, and I was like, and because it was Zoom, I was like, oh god, a Zoom call. And then it was I really, really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. It was like,
yeah.
it was really just felt like a high quality connection, and I came off buzzing, and then I was like, Vanita was like, oh, you're like a completely different mood. So yeah, I'd give that one like a high point score. And
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But then
I like
sometimes I
this
got
a
on a
lot.
Zoom call, and
Yeah.
it's like Zoom calls are not like a fixed number of points. It depends on the quality of the conversation that
you
you
never know
have.
until afterwards, really.
You never know till afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. I have sometimes I like my body oftentimes reveals my subconscious tensions.
Hmm.
Yeah. And there'll be times like for me it's like my shoulders are like getting my hip as well. They get really tense. And then I'm like I'll realize, oh, it's because I've got that call on Thursday, or I've got that, oh, it's that thing I know I'm not looking forward to it. It's not going to be a good one. And so it just kind of like, that interaction of that quality, well, it's not even that, that's a separate to the quality. I think that probably I would count as a high quality interaction, but anyway, some Zoom calls are better than other Zoom calls, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if people have got their cameras switched on.
Switched on. It's
yeah.
better. Oh.
Okay, so this was a good quality connection.
This is a good quality connection. I'll give this a high score. Score. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go through the rest of my day looking for more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this was good. I think we landed on somewhere well. Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. All right. End this high quality connection.
Yeah. Oh, just hit the red button. Yeah.
Let's hit the red button. See you later. See you in a bit. Yeah. Oh, I've got the button. I was waiting for you to press the button. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I don't have it. Yeah.
No, you press the button. No, you press the button. Anyway. Okay, I'm gonna press the button. All right, see you later, mate.